So before we go any further, the guys who own Platform Ventures, remember, they're these two brothers who were basically doxxed by the worst of the worst in Kansas City, the Anderson brothers. They start off by saying that they have had serious threats against themselves and their employees and their families. Stop right there. Before you go any further, and if you're happy that, these guys are not selling to the federal government for a potential ICE detention facility right there on 549 on the Missouri side, then wait. Will you acknowledge that these individuals are telling us that they have dealt with serious threats towards them and their families? This is how far this has gone now. This is what these individuals have been dealing with because of a potential legal transaction that they may have been interested in making. If that's your idea of victory, like I saw from many, including Kansas City Councilman Jonathan Duncan, who put out yesterday on social media, quote, "Victory!" He says here in a media statement from Platform Ventures, they state they have chosen not to move forward with the sale of their warehouse to ICE. That's victory. Elected representatives in Kansas City now perceive victory as preventing a legal business from selling its property in a legal transaction to another legal business, the federal government. And basically, these guys come out in this statement and say that we've had serious threats against our leadership and our families. And that's the first thing they say. And you think that's a victory? The statement goes on the note. We were approached by a third-party private enterprise for this transaction and entered into preliminary negotiations consistent with the fiduciary duties owed to our investors. As negotiations concluded, we learned the purchasing party was the U.S. government. Over the course of the building sale process, we determined that the terms no longer met our fiduciary requirements for a timely closing. Therefore, we chose not to move forward. What are they saying between the lines of that statement? Because people are just seeing what they want to in this statement from Platform Ventures. Here's what I see in that statement. What I see in that statement is that they could have moved forward here. Kansas City, Missouri City Council passed a moratorium, right, a couple of weeks ago trying to block the sale. For whatever reason, Kansas City thought this was a good fight to fight. Kansas City's running a $100 million deficit. At least that's believed to be the number this year. That's what's been reported out there. Maybe it's a little more gray than that. But either way, because of politics, Kansas City was willing to fight this thing in court and drag it on for who knows how long. And what I see in that statement is that when Platform Ventures says here, we determined that the terms no longer met our fiduciary requirements for a timely closing, that reads to me as we did not want to get bogged down in litigation. We didn't want to get stuck in court for months on end trying to sell this property to DHS. Because they do have, as they note here, a fiduciary responsibility and duty to their investors. Would it have been wise to get tangled up with massive court fees and legal troubles to try to sell this thing right now to the feds? Or was that not in the best interests of their investors? So that's the conclusion that they came to here. They didn't back down to the mob. This wasn't them like giving Jonathan Duncan and the city council some massive win or, the other people who have been threatening their lives and their families. They're not giving them a win here. They're saying right now, the legal side of this is not worth it to us. That's it. While also telling us they had serious threats against their lives. Is that what Kansas City wants to be known for? Honestly, for some people, I think it is. I asked the mayor about this yesterday, whether or not it's appropriate to have private business owners basically getting the mob treatment. And here's what the mayor said.
I have issues with businesses. I don't tend to talk about the people behind the businesses because I think that can lead to public safety threats, to some other challenges. And so, what I say is this. My beef is with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, I guess ultimately the President of the United States, Congressman Mark Alford, some of the others who support the citing of this location. This week, Sharice Davids added a letter to a letter already sent to Emmanuel Cleaver in opposition to this. And so, I think what we need to share as a community is our opposition, to take the steps to be against it. And Lord knows, my God, Port Authority is in the middle of like every news issue in this city right now.
All right, that was the mayor yesterday. There's nothing else there that was additive. This is not hard to do. When the mayor says, I don't like to talk about the people behind the business. Okay, fine, maybe you don't, but your colleagues are. Your colleagues are. And by the way, people high up in the Kansas City and Jackson County government, from the head of Port KC to council members to the Jackson County chairman, have been totally fine and accepting, and I would argue pursuing the idea of abusing, harassing these individuals and shaming these brothers to the point where, they're saying here in the statement they had serious threats against themselves and their families in recent weeks. And we can't get people to come out and say, that's wrong? We can't get people to come out and say, that's a problem? Kansas City's better than that? I mean, I still believe that we are. I think that we are. I think we should believe that we are. But, man, as much as I really genuinely do appreciate and respect the mayor who comes on this show every week, I'm struggling with this one. I am. You want to be against the ICE detention facility, that's fine. But full stop, we are not going to be abusing, harassing, or threatening Kansas City business owners because we don't like what may be a legal transaction that they take. No. And as a community, that's not something that we should even tolerate. And what does it lead to? What happened last night? A woman shows up at this building and tries to light it on fire. Unbelievable.
On video.
On video. In daylight, basically.
I watched the station that had that video, and they're like, this woman walked up while we were recording. I thought, didn't no one stop her? Or questions.
I mean, as of last night, they had no one in custody, which I'm like, how is that possible?
Right.
She's right there on the video trying to light the building on fire. By the way, has anyone in local politics come out against that yet? I mean, did we see any immediate statements on social media? I didn't see anything. I mean, I'm looking here. Jonathan Duncan, I didn't see anything about, hey, let's make sure we're not lighting the building on fire last night. It's the lead story on Channel 9. Credit to them. I don't see it as a lead story anywhere else this morning because, well, we don't want to talk about that. But this is the kind of game that you're playing. Okay, when you're okay or at least not reprimanding people for threatening Kansas City citizens and residents and taxpayers and business owners, then you end up with wackos showing up at the building last night trying to burn the thing down. And by the way, it looked like a little, little bonfire at Cub Scouts or something. It wasn't lighting she was not burning the place down.
Right, you got this monster stone-looking building, right? It's you got the windowsills there along the ground. She was actually torching weeds, I think, along the base there.
Oh, she showed them, all right. She showed them. That's for damn sure. And the fact that she apparently is not in custody? What is going on? Do we want to be Portland Light here? Like, is that what some people are going for? This is really bad, top to bottom for Kansas City. Now, as for this building and DHS and all that, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just here to tell you there are other avenues and other ways this could go. DHS could look at other facilities. They could look in different counties, different jurisdictions just outside of Kansas City, Missouri. You could look at eminent domain options. I mean, all these things are still on the table. So people who are out there cheering for a big old victory yesterday and just accepting this statement when the statement from Platform Ventures actually makes the worst people in Kansas City look terrible as their lives were threatened at Platform Ventures, man, I'm telling you right now, none of this looks good for Kansas City. You want to see Kansas City business explode and grow? Well, this thing set it back. That's what this did.
Son, I would encourage you to look for another date for the prom. I know your first choice didn't work out here, but, there are other fish in the sea, if you will. So to the point, the Cass County line passes just beyond where we were looking. And as Mark Alford has talked about, there's another area within view of that current site. So,
and, yeah.
Minor victory.
Exactly. That's all it is. I mean, it's like winning the second inning. That's it. Great. You put a 3 spot up in the second inning. Congrats. You're up 3-2. Great. There's 7 innings left. Pump the brakes here. I'm using the baseball analogy because we've got this spring weather here, Kansas City. Oh, my gosh. Going to be 65 degrees today. Good morning. Happy Friday, 6:15. Glad you're here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Listen, if we get new information, then I'm happy to change my opinion. I think that's what we're all supposed to do, right? You can have an opinion on something, and then when you get new information, you can change your opinion. You don't have to necessarily, but if it changes how you view a situation or a story, then, yeah, your opinion theoretically should change. So I've been really tough on the Pima County Sheriff's Department and then also the FBI for what's going on here in the Nancy Guthrie case. And now it looks like what this is really about and what's been going on here the entire time, the FBI is getting pushback from Pima County. So there was a glove that was discovered, 36 hours ago now, and that glove was and should have been sent in for DNA testing. The problem is, as Trace Gallagher reports here on Fox News late last night, the FBI is wanting to basically take that glove and have DNA testing done in its labs. And Pima County's like, nah, we're good. We got a private location that we can do DNA testing on it. And here was Trace Gallagher, Fox News, last night.
And Jesse, I want to start with a little breaking news. A high-level source at the FBI has just confirmed to me that the Pima County Sheriff's Department has blocked key evidence to the FBI. We're talking about a glove found inside Nancy Guthrie's house along with some DNA. The FBI wanted that evidence so they could take it, analyze it themselves, send it to Quantico to get some faster return. The Sheriff's Department decided to keep that evidence and send it to a private analyst firm in Florida. So clearly that is not going to help the relationship here between the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff, which we know in the early going has been tense at best.
So it's been tense now for, over a week between the FBI and Pima County. I believe that they both have looked fairly incompetent up until this point. But now there's more information coming out to suggest that the FBI has basically been stonewalled at every turn by Pima County. Fox News reporting late last night that a high-level FBI source tells Fox News the handling of the Nancy Guthrie case has been insane. The source said the Pima County Sheriff's Office never requested FBI assistance. The FBI reached out first. The agency joined the case late and was only allowed minimal involvement at first, according to the source. Could you imagine? You've got this high-profile case in Pima County, Arizona, and whether it's arrogance or incompetence, you end up in a situation where you're not asking the FBI for help. There have also been multiple reports here in the last 12 hours or so that the Pima County Sheriff's Office is blocking the FBI from analyzing some of the physical evidence. They now have sent this glove to a private lab in Florida. And Nancy Grace, do you remember Nancy Grace? I mean, once in a while, she kind of pops up on Fox and some other places.
She's still around.
She's still around. She's not doing her show anymore, I don't think, every night. What was she on, HLN or something back in the day?
Oh, I don't know. I change the channel usually when I saw her show coming. So yeah. I just don't change the channel as much as I used to.
She's tough to handle. There's no doubt. Mm-hmm. She's one of those people she's a good guest, but you can't watch her for an hour do a show. You know, like some people can do a show, not a great guest. Some people are really good guests, but can't do a show.
Can't do the eye makeup. She's leaning into that effect, and it doesn't work.
And you get
the evil eye.
Stylistically, it's just too much. It's too in your face. It's like soften a little bit. Okay?
Anyway, when I heard that to Florida, I'm like, chain of command?
Yes, I know. This is like USPS running the operation here. So here was Nancy Grace last night on Fox.
It hurts me to think of this. If there is a small amount of DNA inside one of those gloves, and it is sent to a lab for testing, that DNA could be used up in the testing. It's very hard to regenerate DNA for testing purposes. So what I'm saying is, if that lab in Florida uses up that touch DNA, it's over. Does he not realize what he is risking? He needs to go back to his basketball game.
I don't know what that means. I don't get the basketball game thing. There.
He was at an Arizona game.
Oh.
During, I don't know, at some point when the first day or two of this went down.
Oh, last week? He was at an Arizona basketball game?
It seemed like day
my
2
goodness.
or 3, somewhere in there.
That's a terrible look. Now, hey, Arizona's got a great basketball team, but they lost to KU on Monday.
Got courtside seats.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Good for Nancy. That was a good rip on him there. But she's saying, hey, the FBI has resources to try to figure out the DNA on this thing in a way that a private lab in Florida is not going to. And on top of that, you know, there's a such finite amount of DNA that may be on this glove. You are risking the entire case by doing this. So this is now becoming a horrible look for Pima County. I will, yes, apologize based on this new information to the FBI for their handling of this. I still think they look goofy kind of walking around Nancy Guthrie's yard like they're looking for a missed golf ball. But still, I'll apologize to them because now you're getting more in the last 12 hours that suggests that Pima County's just saying to the FBI, we don't need you and we don't want you. It's basically a jurisdictional turf war going on here.
Pima County Sheriff's Department, this is Officer John. I may help you.
It's such a bad look. Now, how much does this tie back to the FBI investigating Pima County and the Sheriff's Department in 2017? I don't know. That has been brought up here the last 12 hours as part of the potential beef when the FBI uncovered long-running corruption involving funds in the Pima County Sheriff's Department going back 10 years ago. I mean, there's not a ton of people that overlap in leadership from 10 years ago to now. I don't know if there's still bad feelings involved, but either way, if you're Savannah Guthrie, use your platform to start blasting Pima County. Get the FBI involved. News coming up in 2 minutes. When we come back, Tom Homan, despite reports, is not backing down. So Tom Homan's not backing down. I saw this narrative breaking out yesterday of, oh, boy, the worst win again. Oh, boy, they chased the good guys out of Minneapolis. We'll never get a win. The crazy people have won. No. Tom Homan, the border czar, who has been in charge of the on-the-ground operations in Minneapolis over the last couple of weeks in the wake of the Alex Preddy shooting, was brought in there because, first off, he actually knows what he's doing, unlike the head of DHS, Kristi Noem. And he's a pro. He's respected by law enforcement. And he knows what needs to be done to get the job done. And what Tom Homan announced yesterday is that they're drawing back on the surge that they had in place of federal law enforcement officers. The surge, meaning the additive officers that were there. It's like here in Kansas City when we had Operation Legend in the summer of 2020. We were dealing with massive increases in homicides, right? And Operation Legend here in Kansas City was named after the 4-year-old boy, Legend Taliaferro, who was tragically killed during that summer of craziness and chaos. So they call this thing Operation Legend. They bring a ton of federal agents to Kansas City for like 6-7 weeks. They get a bunch of bad guys off the street, make a bunch of arrests, and crime went down precipitously over the next several weeks.
Yeah, it's a combined operation. It's not just like FBI or security. It's, ATF and everybody.
Yes, it was all of those agencies coming to Kansas City for a few weeks, and then they left, right? So there was a surge. It was a specific operation. What Tom Homan did yesterday is just back off on the surge. They still have federal agents in Minneapolis, and he made it clear last night when he was on Fox News that we're not going anywhere here. Okay, this is not about us leaving the job or anything like that. Not seeing the clip in there, Mark. I hate to do this on the spot. I thought I had a Tom Homan clip in there. If you could just give me a second look on that. But he was on, I believe it was Laura Ingraham last night. And it's called Operation Metro Surge. The enforcement operation targeting illegal immigrants in Minnesota. And he said that is the operation that is concluding. That doesn't mean that they're giving up. That doesn't mean that they're losing. It doesn't mean any of that. That's what it means. It means that they're going ahead and simply backing off on the operation that was in place. But he also made it clear that they have done an amazing job with federal agents and made more than 4,000 arrests in Minnesota since the operation began. That's what they've done. So look at that. A small number of agents are going to stay in the state to provide security and investigate allegations of widespread welfare fraud. They're staying on the fraud, by the way.
It just stands to reason in my mind, as you accumulate arrests, you get closer to your goal of leaving and completing the task.
Exactly right. That's exactly what's going on here. Here is Tom Homan last night on Fox.
Even though we're drawing down resources, we still want to have hundreds of special agents here drawn down on the fraud here from the Somatic community and others. Those fraud investigations are going to continue until they're done. We're going to hold people responsible. We're also got investigators here doing the church investigations, to include Don Lemon. We're not walking away from anything. We've achieved what we came here for. This is like any other surge operation. L.A., it ended. Los Angeles, it ended. Charlotte, it ended. New Orleans, it ended. This is ending the surge, but we're not going away. And let me say this. Over 800 flights a day land in St. Paul, Minnesota. If we need to come back, we'll come back.
Easy as that. Great. That's efficient government right there, right? Instead of having all these guys just hanging out, what are we doing today? I will grab some lunch, grab a coffee, grab a donut. He's like, we're pulling them back. We're rolling back the surge in Minneapolis. But if we got to come back, we'll come back. I'll see you guys in a few weeks. But in the meantime, they're still doing investigations into what Don Lemon did at the church, into the fraud up there. It doesn't just end. It's not a loss. It's called smart, efficient government and smart, efficient law enforcement. That's what it is.
Tom pops into the picture, and then we get a little more local cooperation. Didn't he say everybody they contacted was willing to cooperate?
Bingo.
We had the state level obfuscating the whole thing.
Exactly right. That's what was going on.
And then to his point, you need less of us if I can just get a little help locally.
Yes. I don't want federal agents just by the thousands sitting up there hanging out, twiddling their thumbs. I don't want that. So Tom Homan is a rock star, is in charge, is a stud, is all of those things, and he proved it again yesterday. And then this drops last night. It was a massive hit piece against Kristi Noem in the Wall Street Journal. I mean, this thing was thousands of words against Kristi Noem. She, of course, runs DHS. She was basically demoted, more or less, by President Trump in the wake of the Alex Preddy shooting in Minneapolis. And that's when Tom Homan came in and was like, all right, it's time to have the adults in charge here, not the Instagram influencers. All right? And this piece is just brutal. It goes on the note. I can't read you the whole thing. I'll just share a couple of excerpts here from this Wall Street Journal piece that just, makes Kristi Noem look as incompetent as I always thought she was. It was 2 days after federal agents had shot and killed Alex Preddy, and Noem was facing fire from all sides. Even some inside the administration were pushing President Trump to remove her from her position for her handling of the chaotic immigration enforcement operation in Minneapolis, and comments that she had made saying Preddy committed an act of domestic terrorism. Noem's top advisor, Corey Lewandowski, messaged President Trump's pollster with a request. They needed to cut an ad to help her, according to two people familiar with the episode. The pollster, Tony Fabrizio, who worked on Trump's 2024 election campaign, ignored it, according to multiple people. They note here that throughout her tenure, Noem has attempted to burnish her personal stardom at every turn. With Lewandowski, Trump's former campaign manager, at her side, she has staged a headline-grabbing immigration crackdown while sidelining rivals and dissenters. Who's in that list? Tom Homan. Behind the scenes, Noem and Lewandowski have attempted to curry favor with Trump and box out rivals, including Tom Homan. Corey Lewandowski is a political advisor. Kristi Noem was a governor and low-level member of Congress before that. Tom Homan knows more about immigration. Tom Homan knows more about federal immigration law in his pinky than Corey Lewandowski and Kristi Noem know combined. And the fact that in an effort to make her some kind of star, they were squeezing out people like Tom Homan is such a disservice to the President of the United States and, by the way, the American people. Those of us who want to see the administration have success on this issue, they hurt the rest of us as well. They note here in the Wall Street Journal piece that for months, Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski had demanded that ICE capture its arrests on video for social media. The more dramatic, the better. But more than a week after Alex Preddy's shooting, Kristi Noem and Lewandowski berated Todd Lyons, the acting ICE director, for videos that emerged in Minnesota showing federal officers continuing to tangle with protesters. So they wanted videos for social media until they didn't. Wow. Now, by the way, this is something that was noted in this piece. Lewandowski and Noem, who are both married, have publicly denied reports of an affair between the two. But people said they do little to hide their relationship inside the department. The DHS spokesperson told the Wall Street Journal the department, quote, does not waste time with salacious, baseless gossip. The pair have been lately using a 737 MAX jet with a private cabin in the back for their travel around the country. According to people familiar with the matter, DHS is leasing the plane, but is in the process of acquiring it for about $70 million. DHS has previously used other planes through the Coast Guard or other agencies for the secretary's use. So now they're also going out there and allegedly getting set to buy a $70 million plane instead of using other transportation models that DHS has typically used. This is all part of a very bad look for Kristi Noem. And none of it, to me, is all that surprising. When somebody starts to show you who they are, believe them. When Kristi Noem seems more interested in Instagram photos of her in a jail in El Salvador in front of a bunch of inmates with a, full face of makeup and hair and the whole thing and posting on social media, and you're like, well, what's the point of this? And then also, apparently, according to multiple reports, pushing for more chaos in Minneapolis and trying to box out people like Tom Homan. I'm sorry, you're not looking out for the American people. You're not looking out for the administration. You're looking out for yourself. That's it. And I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. I'm sick of politicians in this country just simply looking out for themselves, their own clicks, and their own likes. And this appears to confirm everything that many of us believed Kristi Noem to be. In it for the clicks and in it for the likes. So last night we had a lunatic try to light the warehouse on fire off I-49, which was potentially going to be a future ICE detention center here in Kansas City. And if you didn't hear it, this was Chris Ketz reporting on it last night. Channel 9 had the video. And Chris Ketz doing his best job here reporting on this one.
Called 911, got first responders. There's the video right now. Apparently spraying some sort of an accelerant and then setting it on fire. And again, she drove away, but obviously here we have the video.
Okay. Chris is so good. I love Chris. Well, there she is trying to light the place on fire. And boy, she just drove right away. He's saying it like he's as shocked as we are that this is happening. But of course, he's got to be the straight news guy here. And that's why Chris Ketz is the absolute best. He's got to be like, well, look at that. Well, gee whiz, place is just getting lit on fire. She drives away and hopefully someone finds her.
National news. No indication of whether the woman nearby set the fire. The fires broke out at the base of the building.
Oh, man, I hate when that happens,
Right.
don't you? I mean, you got her on video.
You see it.
She's
pouring stuff
lighting
on
it
the
up.
ground, yeah.
She's freaking putting gasoline on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
And this was after Platform Ventures, the company that owns the warehouse, comes out and says, we are not selling our facility to the U.S. government. So if the lady was going to light it on fire, she was a day late anyway. It's like, ma'am, did you see the news today? You're 8 hours behind here. These guys did exactly what you supposedly wanted, not selling to ICE. And then you try to light the place on fire? Now, it's amazing to me that they have a video of this woman, clear as day, on Channel 9. This is not the Nancy Guthrie case here, okay? Like, it's not like all you got is a Ring doorbell video of someone in a mask. She's in like a T-shirt and jeans, throwing fuel literally on the fire at this warehouse. And they got her on camera, and the last we heard, no one's arrested. How is this possible? This makes Kansas City look even worse after all of this drama. It's like, what are we going to slap people on the wrist now for potentially, arson and destruction of private property? Just let it slide. Kids these days. It looks like a 30-something-year-old grown woman doing this, John.
Well, I'm saying it's not, organic or improvised. That's a paid agitator, surely.
I would
brazen
imagine.
As that is.
Or it's someone who's just really mentally unwell. One or the other. I don't know.
Well, I think those two are the same. The paid agitator. Kind of a cyclical argument.
Well, I would say if you're a paid agitator, yes, you are mentally unwell. But not every person who's mentally unwell is a paid agitator.
Paid agitator, touche.
So clearly you have someone who is, at the very least, not well. And showing up to this warehouse after the fact and then being like, oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. No, if Kansas City wants to actually make up for how they have looked the last few weeks, at the very least, you take this seriously. It's bad enough that members of the city council in Kansas City, like Jonathan Duncan, members of the Jackson County legislature, like Manny Abarca, have threatened these two brothers, these Anderson brothers who own Platform Ventures, over their potential sale of this facility to the U.S. government. It's bad enough that that's happened. It's a terrible look for Kansas City and Jackson County. At the very least, when people go out there and now try to burn the place down, you hold them accountable. You don't sit there and say, kids these days. I mean, the same people that want to treat January 6th like a day of mourning are going to let stuff like this happen? How about we treat it both ways? How about we sit there and say, no, hold on a second. If you break the law, whether it's January 6th, 2021, or it's last night in Kansas City trying to burn down the warehouse, no, we're going to arrest you, and we're going to use the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office to prosecute you and put you in jail. That's what we're going to do. Even if you disagreed with the facility going down there off I-49, at the very least, you got to be on board with that, right? If you believe in the rule of law. 913-408-7957 is our text line and our studio line. And let's not forget, we had somebody light a Tesla on fire last spring, right? That similar thing. Somebody motivated by politics goes over to the Tesla dealer on State Line Road and does what? Light a couple of cars on fire. I've got to check in on where that case is at right now, but that case was being taken seriously. They did arrest somebody. But that guy at least, actually, we don't even know if it was a guy, right? There was something going on there. It was a transition
Yeah, there
thing.
was another storyline to that.
Yes, there was that additive storyline of someone allegedly being involved in a transition as well. So there's that whole angle to that story that's, a sidebar really. But at least that person tried to do it in the middle of the night and tried to get away with it. This person is like in daylight, lighting the warehouse on fire and then driving off like, all right, stop at Burger King on the way home or something like that.
There is a Freddy's down the way. No, that's what made me think his paid agitators is so blatant.
Oh, my gosh. There's a Freddy's. Is that where we're going for lunch
Freddy's
today?
off the exit, right?
Yeah. All right, we'll check it out. Maybe she's hanging out there right now. Dennis is in Bonner Springs. Hey, Dennis, you're on KCMO.
Hey, good morning, Pete. Hey, congratulations on your ranking. Well deserved for you and your whole crew. This deal about this lady, I was watching the news when it happened. And you know what's alarming to me? The Tesla, which I was going to bring up and you already did, this now. So I'm a conservative. And one of these wackos disagrees with me, and I'm asleep in my home in the middle of the night, and they decide to torch my house. This stuff's they've got to be taken care of. They've got to be thrown away into the jail for the maximum penalty under the law. It's getting out of hand. These, whatever you want to call them. I think you called it a wacko. That was being nice. But it's just out of control, brother.
It is completely out of control. I mean, as someone who's dealt with, some of these threats on a personal basis over the years, I mean, that's just the reality. It's the reality.
Anyway, hey, kind of a personal deal. I saw on your social media you had a picture with one of your little girlfriends, and Woody was on the couch. I'm glad to finally get to see Woody. I had no idea what Woody looked like, and he looks like a darn good dog.
He's a 13-year-old black Havanese, and yes, just to clarify, it was not one of my girlfriends. It was one of my daughters. I don't want to confuse the audience.
Aren't they all your girlfriends?
Well, depends on the day,
them?
Man. It really depends on the day.
Well, okay, but you're buying them all something for Valentine's Day.
Yes.
There you go. Hey, have a good weekend,
all right,
buddy.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate that. Yes. Woody was up on the Facebook page the other day. Over the weekend, I think I threw a photo of him up there. But yeah, he's doing great. He's doing great. But Dennis is right. His broader point there that needs to be hammered home. If people are continued to be slapped on the wrist, if that at all, for doing things like lighting buildings on fire, committing arson, how's any of this going to be put back into the bottle? Can you put the genie back in the bottle? Because there are people running around Kansas City today saying, we won, we did it. We abused these guys and this company enough to not sell their facility to ICE. And I'm telling you right now, these guys at Platform Ventures, Kansas City residents, Kansas City business owners, Rockhurst guys, I mean, these guys said in their statement that they have been threatened. Their families have been threatened. And I would imagine that they've had to get help from KCPD as a result. For doing what? If that's what we're rewarding now in Kansas City. And I can't even get the mayor to come on this show and say that's wrong, which sadly I couldn't get him to do yesterday. It's a terrible look for this town right now. I mean, do you want to be Portland Light here? Is that what some people want? Rick is on KCMO. Good morning, Rick.
Pete, I just can't understand how we can turn down economic development in Jackson County like that when we're willing to give away our taxpayer dollars to the millionaire sports team owners for this ICE facility. This ICE facility is going to create union jobs. That's not a facility inside. There's going to be a lot of work that has to be done in there, and that's going to be done by union contractors inside. Plus, you're going to have to ongoing support where you're going to need linen service and food service and maintenance service, and you could actually use that for if you could cut a deal with ICE where they could give you part of it that isn't being used or something to detain some of your less violent, your overnight DUIs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because we don't have jail, we could utilize all of that.
Well, think about this.
the federal government's going to dump free money in here.
Think about this, to your point there, Rick. If the city was smart, here's what they would do with this. They would let the feds foot the bill, to your point. Build it out as some kind of ICE detention facility. By the end of this term, it's highly likely that, God willing, a lot of the problem is under control, right? I mean, there are arrests being made and deportations being made every single day. But then by the time you get to maybe the late 2020s, is that facility needed? And then can Kansas City come in and say, hey, feds, you mind if we use this for our purposes? I'm just saying, like, think 2 steps ahead. That's all. Think 2 steps ahead. 913-408-7957. 715. Good to have you here. Coming up next, an old story around Nancy Guthrie's daughter, Savannah, on the Today Show is starting to resurface almost a month after the story dropped. And it's creating an incredible conspiracy. I'm not sitting here buying into the conspiracy. I just want to share it with you because it's starting to go viral as this search continues on towards the end of a second week. Next, right here on KCMO. So we're pushing 2 weeks since Nancy Guthrie went missing. It was early Sunday morning on February 1st, right? Well, an article from 10 days prior to that is starting to go viral. It was a Daily Mail exclusive. And the headline read as follows. Savannah Guthrie is in total panic mode. Today, coworkers' brutal true thoughts about her revealed while she's on sick leave, leaving her asking the same humiliating question. So what was this story about? 11 days before Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy, disappeared, NBC coworkers and executives said that Savannah was in full panic mode and fighting to save her $8 million a year job. While Savannah was on a leave of absence, the show's ratings shot up 12%. She was getting, I guess, something with her vocal cords. See, I wouldn't know because I literally never have the Today Show on in here. I've got local news on. I've got, KCTV5, our partners there. I'll check out Fox 4 because KCTV5 goes off a local at 7. I can't watch Gayle King. I'm sorry. And who's the other guy? Nate Burleson. Oh, my gosh. I can't do that. Fox News, obviously, I'll pop on if I want to watch some national stuff. But I very rarely have on, if ever, the Today Show. I don't know. But I didn't even know she was missing. So she was on this leave of absence, and the show's ratings went up 12%. She took time off in late December to recover from vocal cord surgery, and the show shot up in the ratings. The Daily Mail source on January 20th said that Savannah's in full panic mode. She's been away with this vocal issue, and the ratings went up. According to the Daily Mail article, the source also said Savannah was, quote, pushing her doctors to get her back to work as soon as possible so that the audience doesn't forget her. She's insisting that the show tape a piece on her at home recovering. The source added on the ratings that Savannah keeps asking, is this a fluke? But no one's giving her a straight answer, which is making it worse. Savannah always believed that she was the glue holding the show together. The numbers going up while she's gone has seriously rattled that belief, and she feels blindsided. Now, this is true in all of media. And I'm not sitting here saying that we're digging ditches, but one of the reasons that, we don't like to be gone for a long time is because there is this inner fear/insecurity that if we're gone for too long, everybody forgets about us, John.
/reality.
Yes. It's all of us. It's radio, it's TV. There's this element of, if I'm gone for a day, they forget I was here. And the reality is that's not true. And we appreciate that, especially here on KCMO. Take a little time off once in a while. Don't worry, we'll be back. But it's an inner insecurity that exists in every form of media.
Not so much we're forgotten. It's just that life goes on without us.
Well, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So this story goes on to say that Savannah Guthrie was obsessively checking the ratings while she was on leave, saying that she's refreshing the ratings reports like it's her full-time job, and it's consuming her. Her biggest fear is that this changes how NBC sees her leverage. The outlet also reported on January 20th that those who worked on the show reported a more relaxed, organic, and warmer environment on set without her. Without Savannah, the vibe shifted immediately. It stopped feeling like a classroom and started feeling like a group of equals, according to a source. There's less tension now. No one's worried about stepping out of line or getting corrected mid-conversation. Savannah makes $8 million a year co-hosting the Today Show. Her contract appears to be up soon. It was last renewed in 2020 and 2016. So does this tie into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie? No, I'm not suggesting it does. Do I think it's a wild coincidence that 10 days after this report drops from the Daily Mail, that her mother goes missing? Yes. Do I think it's absolutely strange? No doubt about it. And now you have Savannah Guthrie continuing to be at the center of the greatest drama in the country. You have the Pima County Sheriff's Department looking like totally incompetent fools. Reports last night from Fox News that they have tried to basically push away the FBI at every turn. They have potential DNA in this glove that was found. And what did they do with it? They sent the glove to a private lab in Florida instead of letting the FBI use its facility right there in Arizona to test the glove. You can't write this script, and it gets more bizarre and strange at every single turn. Next, speaking of bizarre and strange, there was a meeting last night in Jackson County, and it was the definition of bizarre and strange. We have the details next. There was a big meeting last night in Jackson County, and it was all about whether or not ICE agents should be allowed to wear masks. Now, I believe the answer is yes, and it's not because I want masked agents flying all over Jackson County or anywhere, but you do have individuals, sadly, who have been doxxed, who are trying to protect their families in the wake of all this chaos and how this issue has become so hyper political, I believe unnecessarily. You have the guys that own the warehouse down off 549 who announced yesterday that they are not selling that facility to the federal government. They're not selling it to ICE, saying in their statement that as private citizens, they have been threatened and their families have been threatened in recent weeks. Law enforcement, in many cases, dealing with the same thing. And by the way, I'm not saying it's better or worse based on your income levels, but let's be honest. The guys that own Platform Ventures, they've got a little more capital to work with, shall we say, than your average ICE agent does, who's a government employee making, whatever it is, 50, 60, 70 grand, at least to start. Very different. They don't even have the access to some of the protection that other people might have access to. So that's I think understanding how we got here matters, right? So last night, a few dozen people got together at Macedonia Baptist Church in Kansas City for a community meeting focused on concerns about ICE activity in the presence of masked law enforcement officers. It was Darrell Forte, the Jackson County Sheriff, and Jackson County Chairman Manny Abarca. So once again, this is largely a dog and pony show. It's been pretty well stated that when it comes to what legally an organization can do, or a county can do in this case, telling federal agents what they can and cannot do within your jurisdiction on something like this when it comes to masking is not believed to be something that would hold up in court. That being said, it gets Manny Abarca on TV. That's his goal. He likes being on TV mostly when his mugshot's not on TV. So this is much better for him when he's, seen in this kind of a setting. He gets up there last night and, he decides they're going to move forward with an ordinance that would prohibit at least ICE agents from wearing masks and would require them to keep their faces and badges visible while interacting with the public. Here's part of what Manny Abarca had to say last night about this.
I think I have been open to the ability of modifying to focus directly on ICE specifically with our ordinance. But, I think it's some of us local officials are trying to do anything and everything we can to prevent Minnesota from happening here in Jackson County.
Prevent Minnesota from happening here in Jackson County? Minnesota's not going to happen here in Jackson County. And if it is, it's not going to be because some ICE agent was wearing a mask. This is all just political rhetoric that is drumming up the worst of the worst. That's all this is. This is a politician getting up there and saying, look at me, and then getting people who are just enraged right now, even more enraged, and creating unnecessary fear. That's also what this is doing. It's not healthy for Jackson County. It's not healthy for the region. Everyone's just got to chill out. And Darryl Forte, the sheriff in Jackson County, I give him credit because he was pushing back on this when the ordinance was first announced by Manny Abarca, saying we're not going to let any law enforcement in Jackson County have masks on. Darryl Forte is like, whoa, pump the brakes, man. No, you can't be doing this. Darryl Forte, rightfully so, pushed back. But now, after last night, it looks like what he's really doing is just trying to protect the sheriff's department and not look out for KCPD and potentially not look out for federal agents either here.
I wouldn't want a family member coming in contact with a masked so-called law enforcement official because you don't know. But there's some things we can work through, so I want you all to know I'm not totally opposed. I just believe law enforcement should be able to use discretion, at least the sheriff's office. We should be able to use discretion.
Well, good job looking out for yourself there, man. I mean, at least the sheriff's office. I mean, could you at least include KCPD and Lee Summit and all the other local agencies in Jackson County while you're at it? I mean, at least look out for your local brothers and sisters in Jackson County. If you want to give them a win on ice, which, by the way, is all political posturing anyway, that's your prerogative. But come on, man. He's just trying to create a carve-out for himself, basically, is all I'm hearing there from Sheriff Forte. At least stand up for the local law enforcement folks here as well. Couldn't do that. 913-408-7957 is the text line and the studio line. Abarca saying last night the intent of the ordinance in Jackson County is to ensure officers are clearly identifiable when interacting with residents. Okay. In a normal world, I'm okay with that. But look at what just happened to the Platform Venture guys who have received threats against themselves and their families. If you did not have lunatics around Kansas City and the country, for that matter, threatening private citizens who, in the case of Platform Ventures here, were potentially going to go ahead with a very legal transaction. If that was not happening, maybe people could walk around with a clearly identifiable badge and not have to worry about a mask. I agree with you, but how we got here matters, right? It does. Dorian is in Harrisonville. Good morning, Dorian. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Pete. How are you?
I'm well.
Good. You're absolutely spot on the doxing thing, and I'm fascinated by the continued double standard that since at least 2020 we've had Antifa people and everybody else running around with masks on, but suddenly it's not okay for they're trying to protect their identity, but it's not okay for the ICE officers too, you know, and Forte just doubled down on the hypocrisy too. So yeah, right on.
Yeah, well, that was disappointing from Forte, kind of giving them a win on this thing, right? I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I was like, why is he even entertaining any of this for anybody?
I totally agree. You're right.
Thanks, Dorian. Appreciate it, man. Text 913-408-7957. Pete, this is getting ridiculous. I can't even stand law enforcement right now. No. Don't go there. What are they doing here in all this? I mean, you want to be upset with Forte. I'm kind of annoyed with him for what he said last night, but I'm not sitting here saying I can't stand law enforcement. I mean, if you're saying that, or if I'm going down that road, then we've got bigger problems. Just want to make sure that law enforcement is protected while also, not abusing their authority either. But here's the other part of this, right? They claim this is all about making sure that we can see the faces of ICE agents or see the faces of local law enforcement. Most of these people are wearing what? Body cameras. If there was something tragic, something out of line that involved one of these agents, don't you think the body camera would be there to tell the story? That's the point of them. That's why I believe every local law enforcement officer, county, state, federal, every single one of them should have a body camera. Frankly, I think it's good for them, so that way you don't have cell phone videos taking things out of context. I think that's incredibly critical. It protects them. It protects the agencies. And then it also protects regular people, right? Because if you do have law enforcement getting out of line, if you do have them going too far, then you want that on tape too. You want that video out there as well. It protects everybody. So if you have the body cameras, then what do you need to worry about when it comes to the badge? I mean, I haven't had a lot of interactions with law enforcement, at least when it comes to like getting pulled over or, God forbid, breaking the law or something like that. But I'll tell you what, what was I pulled over right before Thanksgiving? I got pulled over. Got my first ticket here in the Kansas City area. I don't know how you do it. Maybe this is my white privilege showing, but I've never looked at the agent's badge or the officer's badge. I look at his face. I have my hands on the steering wheel. Maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive. I'm not saying I have the answer, but the first thing I'm doing is not looking at his badge. I don't. Okay? And it gets back to the same old thing. 99% of the time. Not saying there's not bad cops out there. There are. Okay? They're human beings too. But 99.9% of the time, you will have a fine interaction with law enforcement when you play by their rules. If you get pulled over, if you get arrested, if you're not driving vehicles into them, you're not going to have a problem by and large. And can we get back to that message? Or is that too much to ask from local political figures who are trying to get themselves on TV? 913-408-7957. Mario Vasquez is going to be here top of the hour. He is the Kansas City, Missouri city manager. Budget came out yesterday. $2.5 billion is the number for Kansas City, the proposed number in Kansas City. That's still a $50 million deficit they're going to be running. And where is that money going? He will join us at the top of the hour right here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. A coach here locally just got eviscerated yesterday, and it got all the way up to the biggest national shows. We'll tell you who and how next.